This program is brought to you by New Tanchow City Public Access, with grants from the Hijito government and former King Paris.
So follow up, from the break, before we had the break. It's just with the water, you got to have it filtered, at least 3 times. You've got to make sure that it gets blessed, at least by a cleric who you can trust. Not a lot of them around anymore. They're all part of that cabal. And, you know, this issue of our water being affected by the arcane arts and the runoff and the stuff that gets in it is really a problem. Something you're going to have to look into. Be careful out there. So, next segment, here we are, is Blango's big question. It comes from us from, I won't read the person's name. Whenever you send in a question to me, make sure you put anonymous. This person put their name. I would advise you right now that this has probably been seen by not just me, but other people have seen it, and you've been reported. So it's best that you probably move at least 3 or 4 times, change your name, preferably go underground if you can. At least 5 or 6 years, you should be safe because now the cabal knows where you are, and they will come find you. So their question is, I'm going to read this. Will the heroes of the meatballs ever be released? I get questions like this all the time. And I think I've gone over bits and pieces of this whole story at some point, and I guess this is a good point right here to wrap it up. I mean, this has been like 10 years in the making, I guess, since we had the big change. We had this big battle at Calico, they like to call it, and and I've told you before that Calico doesn't exist. They talk about it's an interdimensional plane or some kind of craziness. It's not. Calico is it's a warehouse down at the dock here at New Tanchow City. I could show you where it is, uh, but now that I've mentioned it, we went down there. They'll have moved, but that's because they know. So if we go down there and they moved, that means we know that they moved, and that proves it. So we know that they know. So we're not going to do that. But anyway, it's film. It's done right there at the dock in a big warehouse. That's Calico. So that's where this big epic battle, where the Lich Queen and Oltar and the old lady met their demise. Um, and I had Conrad in here, you know, um, a couple years ago, and he just talked about how this whole everything that they had filmed, with the magic imaging device, was held up by lawsuits, and it's held up by that group. And we're going to repeat the same group again: as the Molask, Asmodeus, King Harold, the dragons. Don't even get me started with the whole dragons, because that's a problem too. So it's all held up by them. If you can get a chance to see, I want to see the uncut version. I don't want to see the cut version they're going to put out. You're going to see the uncut version. You're going to see the truth. You're going to see the uncut. You're going to see the cut version. You're going to see a bunch of crap. Because we all know, because I've got, as you know, Conrad was in here. He dropped off this early. This is the early promo poster for the Heroes of the Meatballs. And as he clearly states right here, protagonist, Nath Keel. We know that they're the shit. I mean, they're the ones that did it. They're the ones that took out the old lady, the Lich Queen. Oltar, we haven't heard from them, of course, in 10 years. Where are they gone? Banished. How convenient, right? How convenient for everybody. So, but they're tough. I'm sure they'll emerge somewhere. I've heard that they're in a prison somewhere in the northern lands that used to be used by the Gith. So, somebody get on that. Somebody look up there, try to find it. If you get up there, find them. Find that they moved, you know you're onto them. So, we'll discuss this whole thing, and um, you need to see the unedited version, because the edited version is just going to show you these guys right here, the anti-heroes. They're not heroes; they're anti-heroes, and we can go into these characters. I mean, we'll just get into it. We'll just talk about them, and we'll talk about all this because you want me to talk about Heroes of the Meatballs. I mean, it's 10 years, still trapped, still in lawsuits, and one of the prime people, um, involved in this is missing. Is that James Lighthouse second? And how does he figure into this whole thing? Well, you know, you're going to find out that he was Sully's attorney, and you're going to find out that he was the princess's attorney, who was the Lich Queen. He knows some stuff. He knows kind of the ins and outs of what's going on. We've never seen him in 10 years. He's vanished too. So he probably holds, there's probably some paperwork and stuff. Nobody can find anything on that. So, who do we want to talk about first? Who's first in this group? Talk about the Illithid, the moon, the mind flare, moonflower, the monster as he's called. If you haven't figured out what's going on with these whole mind flare thing, then you need to get your head out of your ass. We were foolish enough to go and help the Gith. Wait a second, I'm getting that backwards. We weren't helping the Gith. We need to help the Gith. We're helping the mind flares after the Gith. We had the secret war going on. It's that same cabal I'm talking about. We'll be talking about it over and over. Molask. We're talking about Asmodeus. We're talking about King Harold. The dragons. That whole group there manipulating behind the scenes. They went after the Gith with the Mind Flayers' help, and the Mind Flayers are just playing us. Basically, they're going to use this planet and our world for food. They're just waiting until our brains are big enough, like sizes of watermelons, were ripe. They're going to swoop down and they're going to have a feast, and that's all they're waiting for. And if you don't think that our brains are getting bigger, because all the knowledge we're getting, especially when you're listening to this and you're reading what I'm putting out, it's happening. Because I went down to Darius, to the phrenology university, to have again my brain measured. This isn't really an accurate. I do it daily just to find out, just to get a reading, basically what's going on, and I'm up like a tenth since the break. My brain's getting bigger, and that's the thing that's going on with them. So you got to be careful. You got to be aware of what's going on. There's also this character Moonflower has also used some kind of monkey paw. And we've had a run on now people cutting off paws of monkeys just to use them and thinking they got like some kind of magical effects. That's a bad influence on the youth. It's a bad influence on our culture. And then he's got some kind of fancy cloak. I've seen pictures of this. I've seen and I've seen it in the stores in Clinkville too. But I heard he roamed around and he just he would offer people sex grass and stuff. That's just kind of stuff we don't need. Okay, that's just kind of stuff we don't need. And I've seen kind of the freaky stuff going on with the whole tentacle thing, and like I said, I had Conrad in here and we talked to, he's done some documentaries, and I've seen some of that tentacle stuff. And I can't say that I don't watch a lot of it, but I'm fairly familiar with it, and I could speak at length easily. We could do a whole segment about this, the kind of freaky tentacle stuff, and we don't need that around here. So we need to vanquish these people quickly as we can, because they're just waiting for our brains to get bigger and eat them, and that's all they want to do. And I don't know. That's just one of these heroes we're talking about. One of these heroes that are not heroes. And look, we get to the next, we get to that Azure, Arin soon. I think that's what we call him. And the whole thing with the spark, he started as Soul Wrench. I saw Underdark 3. And he was portrayed as a trash can. We know he was a trash can, just kind of some sort of gnome construct. We all know about the gnomish Azure Bridge. We all know the conspiracy behind that. The gnomes basically control the Azures. If anybody has a spark, the gnomes have it. Um, Soul Rancher, now he was preferred to be called Aaron. So Aaron had the spark, and but the spark's not real. I don't really think it exists. I mean, listen, I went down the other. I mean, I've got like dozens of these things you can find in Clinkville. They don't work. I mean, it's a prop. It's a bunch of crap. Well, I'll tell you what, Aaron is. He owns a fleet of food trucks. They call it the Tasty Llama. I mean, if Azure's know one thing, they know llamas. And he's just cooking behind the scenes there in those food trucks. And I can tell because he burns every damn one of those llama legs every time because they're all fire. What do you expect? They're all like charcoal. If you like charcoal, you go down there. I don't know how they stay in business. I'm sure it's part of that cabal. I'm sure that group is keeping him in business, propping him up, and that's the only way he's making it. And like I said, the spark is just, I think that's erroneous. And I've heard he's got some minions. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure. I don't know if we have a picture of them. I don't know if we have if they are, I'll send them out. But there's some freaks, We don't need that kind of stuff. Um, that brings me to, the next up is Theria, the elf who claims to have killed Bekbar and claims to have gotten the kill shot on the Lich Queen. We know that Theria, and it's documented, that she is Siggy Zardust, the famous performer. You've heard the story. Allegedly, this performer died. When the airship hit the train that rolled down the hill into that vat of acid, and then a random meteor struck it. But that was just a setup because I think Siggy was going underground, and one of Siggy's biggest rivals, was an elf called named Dust Rumble. 10 years later, we haven't heard, gone. So that kind of adds up right there, right? You can see that Dust Rumble would be the one to tell you who Theria is. Nope, nowhere to be found. Get a little bit into the backstory again. That cabal we're talking about. Where did she get the airship from? Asmodeus. I mean, come on, how tough is that to put together? And one of my favorite guests, most popular, the Elk Lord was in here, very reasoned, spoke about the Pegacorn, and just basically she stole it from him. And not only did she steal something that was a possession, it was very personal to him, and he still pines for that Pegacorn. Nothing he can do about it. She is Theria, the hero, and he's just the Elk Lord. So, sorry, buddy, you're out of luck. And then let's get to the next issue. The next thing about is this kid. Always emerging from the dirt, always dirty, always covered in rags. I mean, what kind of and she looks malnutrition. She doesn't look like she's got any food. From what I've seen, I don't even think she's grown in reports I've gotten in like 10 years. So she's like the same age. So there's something going on. I don't know if Theria's, got her smoking opium or something, because I know that stunts your growth. But she, if it was any one of us, the New World Child Protective Service come right in, swoop that kid away, and our ass would be in Lindbergh salt mines. But not the hero, not a hero of the great battles. The Slayer of Bekbar, the Slayer of the Lich Queen. Not her. No, she gets a pass. You think the kid's dad would kind of swoop in there too Again, another mystery. I had Jacques in here 5 years ago, and he talked about, he was hired to investigate that, and he said basically the results were inconclusive. They couldn't figure it out. He mentioned some names like Olive Show, and he mentioned like the Moonlit King. I don't know if these are made up individuals. I don't know how you get impregnated from an eel. And then there was talk of a red Rothgar, and we'll get to Rothgar next. And this whole thing with him, he was a red troll and then a monkey too, or something. So there's something going on with him, and Rothgar is really a very interesting case too. When we get to him, but she got a pass. She gets a pass. All these heroes get passes every time. Uh, you and I don't. You and I don't. They get passes because they're heroes. Uh, then we come to and where's she at? Well, I mean, she's in the city of the dead because she's undead. We know that. I mean, we've come to figure that out. She's basically undead. So we're talking about next to be Sully. I mean, this is an interesting case. Um, Supposedly a pirate. Like I had Captain Haverstor come in here when he got to Jezebel. That was a long time ago. Basically told me he was a chamber pot assistant for all those years, and that a lot of those stories were embellished. So, and where's Captain Haverstor now? Gone. So as you've seen a pattern, you're seeing a pattern that the people who can contradict, who can provide the critical piece of information that we need, are missing. So he's not a real pirate. I mean, I've heard these stories in the Northern Lands. I've heard he's working for Asmodeus, and that he's turned on the Molask or something. No, he's a double agent. He's working. He may be a double agent, but the Molask and Asmodeus are working together. They're secretly lovers. I mean, this is all over the press. Um, and his wife and daughter apparently were killed or missing. I mean, they were just actors from the Second Theater Troupe in Clinkville. I mean, I saw them, oh gosh, 2 weeks ago. I wanted to get their autograph and sign, but they look good. I mean, it was something they had to do. But a lot of this stuff is just fantastic. It's just, I don't know how so many people fall for it, but they do, and they hook, line, and sinker. I mean, I've heard he's like a double agent, and then he's out there giving orders. He's not. If he's given orders, he's given orders from the Gorgonhorn Eternal Rest Home. We know he's a human, and when he started adventuring and getting into this, he was easily up in the 70s, 80s. He's got to be what? That was like 10 years, 12. He's got to be 90 or 95 years old or something. He's an old, fragile man, and he's there resting in Gorgonhorn Eternal because he fell and broke his hip. So if he's given these orders and having these clerics killed, which is another part of this cabal, which they're removing a lot of, uh, removing a lot of the unbelievers, I would say, as far as Asmodeus and Molaskar, as their final, uh, kind of their final work together to bring both the Northern Lands and the known world together under their rule. I mean, it was kind of the part of their plan to remove these other pieces, and now they're coming together. And that leaves us with the final hero, probably the worst offender, Rothgar, um, who is, a very stereotypical dwarf who just drinks all day. And only a water elemental would do that because he's secretly a water elemental. I don't know how many people know this, but Burke confirmed it for me. We had him on a couple years ago. Um, as he was talking on his Lich Lives Matter tour, just talking about the princess and everything that had happened, and they're kind of working together a little bit in vices for that bartender. which I've been there a couple of times. But let's get back to, I don't want to get too sidetracked on too many conspiracies right now. But Rothgar basically is a water elemental. And people talk about, well, can you explain the fact he doesn't like to fly? Well, the water elemental's arch rival is the air elemental. Of course, he doesn't want to be in the air. I mean, that's makes sense. And he constantly drinks. He's basically drinking water all day because he has to keep hydrated to keep up that appearance. I mean, it's a very elaborate ruse, uh, very smart. Um, you know, the whole thing's about how he captured Steve, the Traveler. We know Travelers don't exist. It's an elaborate illusion. Basically, it was basically created to explain the magical dead zones that were occurring. And I've gone over this. You know, it has to do with the arcane magic practices, and then we go back into the whole thing with the water I talked about earlier. You got to be careful. You got to be aware out there and know what's going on. And they needed a scapegoat, so they invented this traveler concept. But you know, Rothgar. Uh, Last time I heard, he's in West Tanchow City. I think he's doing bodyguard work. I'm not sure. I'm sure he's getting a decent stipend from the Cabal, you know, for all his work in taking care of, you know, the old lady and the Lich Queen and Oltar, just removing those pieces off the board. And hold on, 3 times filtered water blessed by clerics you trust. That's what you need right there. Um, where was I? Oh yeah, working for the bartender in Vices. I've been to Vices. It's a very interesting place. Um, I don't really can't go into too much because I was kind of sworn to secrecy about what was going on. But that's where Burke's been working too, just trying to get an angle, uh, get himself back in the game, you know, because feels the princess was done wrong by what happened, and that she was kind of an innocent victim. And don't get me started, and well, it just makes me think of this whole puppet theory, and I'm not really sure. I'm not into puppets. I'm not into little magic shows, or I don't know where they dreamt that one up, but that's just bizarre. Um, but you know, Rothgar is probably probably the biggest of the heroes because of he's been around the longest and he's known the best. Um, so you know, it's tough to go against the grain. It's tough to talk about these things because I know that they're watching me. I know that all eyes are always on me. But you see, they know that I know. So it's okay that I know that they know because I'm on to the fact that they know. So we're good. So that's why they keep me around. But I know they keep me around. It's pretty complicated, but I keep it straight. Um, I think I've answered that question, right? I mean, that's the big question. Will the Heroes and Meatballs ever be released? You know, it depends. If they can get a version that's sanitary that shows that these guys, this whole thing will be different. That these guys were the heroes and did all these wonderful things. I'm sure they'll try to put it out. Until then, we'll never know. I mean, we'll never know what happened. I mean, we will know what happened because the truth will come out. But so much of the known world is being duped, and it's a shame. Um, anyway, I'm running along in this segment. The next segment coming up, we're going to talk about Illuminator's Eye, which is the moon, and I'm going to tell you right now that it's a satellite from another world, and those people might just come and visit us. So you best be ready. Hey, we clear? Good, good, good. Tough segment. Yeah, yeah. We go through all kinds of stuff and talking about them. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can cover with this bunch. A lot of stuff. Yeah, some more More food would be good. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, look at Cornbird. Most advanced, most advanced city we've known in the known world. Gone. Occupied by red trolls. What happened? Who was there last? Rothgar. Rothgar was there last, and destroyed it. Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, I've seen the documentaries from Conrad. He's done some stuff on trolls, and they make you want to wish for some tentacle action once you see that kind of stuff go on. But not that I'm an expert in that or anything, but or I've seen a lot of it. But yeah, that red troll stuff is bad news. Look, just gone. Well, that's why we're suffering so many technological problems. Also with the arcane magic, um, doing that too. Well, yeah, yeah, he broke his hip. That's what I heard. I mean, well, it was. Is that what you heard? It was shuffleboard he was doing. Well, that means he's a vampire, and vampires cannot resist shuffleboard. You know that. I mean, it's kind of age old thing. You put that in front of them, and they're onto it. So that would explain why he's never fallen in battle too. So yeah, yeah. I mean, well, vampires still break their hips. They still can be frail. They're just undead, hard to kill. You know. Yeah, we didn't get into that with Theria either with the pocket watch. I had that whole family. That whole family was on here. That whole gnomish family was on here, and that whole plan with the whole. That's another thing with this group of heroes and the stuff that they get away with. It's crazy. I mean, the whole elaborate plan to get the labyrinth. When they stole the pocket watch. She stole the pocket watch from that poor gnome. Um, and then they end up swinging a deal where they crash the airship into the Ferris wheel, going after them, and then they turn around and sue and try to get the money from Labyrinth. It was all a elaborate ruse, and that whole family was on here telling me about it, how they got shafted in the whole deal. They didn't see a dime from Labyrinth or anybody, or these heroes. It was part of a big deal. That yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And they got, I guess, when Sully got that keep. Yeah. Well, he doesn't need big walls. I mean, that would explain it too. He doesn't need big walls if he's a vampire. They're just going to bury him in the ground. I mean, come on, come on. It all adds up. Yeah, we could have got into Soul Wrench's sister there, Stoyanka. Uh, yeah, I've heard. I mean, not really too familiar with her, but he claimed again. He's another one claims a traveler made him. I mean, I've had Thesley in here, and I told him to his face that Carl wasn't real. He just showed me his mechanical arm or something. Like, I don't believe that. I don't believe anything that dude says. He was nuts. He was absolutely crazy. And Aaron's got these claims these spirits haunt him and trouble him. I mean, what does he practice? Arcane magic. Duh. That's what's doing it. He's probably not filtering his water or blessing it either. So, he may be working with a bag of sand up here too, for all I know. But that's why the spirits are bothering him. He's practicing arcane magic. That'll mess your mind up all the time. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's. Yeah, we could have got into that too. I mean, there's so much you get into with that with Moonflower and Deathbringer. I mean, there's another kid. I mean, look at the kids. Offspring of this bunch is just absolute trouble. Deathbringer has laid waste to a lot of the Northlands. Ki- Killed countless. It could be in the millions. Yeah, a mind flare serial killer. Just bad news. And they think nothing of it. I mean, they just let him go. Think nothing of it. What's the big deal? What's the problem? But it's problematic. It's absolutely problematic. No, I mean, yeah, I've heard that theory too about the mind melding and all that stuff. I don't know. I don't know if I believe any of it. Okay. Yep. Yeah, I'll be ready. Okay, hold on. All right, yeah, we're back, and before I get into the next segment, just to finish up what we were talking about, and during the break they were talking, said something to me about, this I feel like a huge, this huge conspiracy, this big, it's elaborate ruse, and I just said it feels like a dream. It feels like some sort of dreamscape thing you hear about, and maybe we're all in it. Maybe we're all trapped in it. We don't realize it, and if so, we gotta snap out of it. Is some book about drawing a blank. Help me out here. You probably want to ask about Jock. Um, running out of video. You probably want. Where are they now? You probably want to ask about Moonflower. Well, he's with Jock, and I think he's on some book tour. I think it has to do with different brain recipes that he's kind of come up with. Well, I don't really. I know he's got sold out crowds. It's a lot harder than it would. Yeah, this isn't working. So where are they now? That's probably what you want to know. Well, Aaron, he is in some place that he wouldn't tell me. Sort of an interdimensional place. His fire is slowly going out, and his body is decaying to black. It is falling off, pieces of it falling around him. Kind of sad, really. Where are they now? You probably want to know about Theria. She's in Lindbergh or Silvery Moon, somewhere in the Elven territories. With her daughter, of course. She is seeking the undead and working with former King Paris and his inner circle. Is riding her pegacorn and using the sword of the eternal wound and using that bow, which she deftly... Oh, where did that go? Where's Sully? Well, he is now in the Northernland somewhere. Not sure exactly where he's gone. He's pledged his allegiance to Asmodeus. And, well, with that comes a certain kind of responsibilities. He is looking for Levistus and his minions. And, well, it's hard to tell what his motivations are now. Oh, he put pumpkin. It's like pure evil. You probably want to ask about Rothgar or Rothgar. Well, he's with Matilda. And that's all that can be said about that. Sort of worked as helped out with the bartender. And now is kind of doing his own personal security guard detail, where he's able to help people in need. And does a lot of day drinking too, and morning drinking. The good old vodka donut.